Can I ask a very simple question? Did you read Orwell in English or in Russian?
When I first read it, I did Russian. It was today, I don't know who did this first translation in Russian, because it was obviously an emigre translation, and I don't know, unlike the Animal Farm where we know who they did, it was, I don't know who, they published it without the name of it, but it was even more scary, of course, in Russian, you know. And I read Animal Farm in English later on, I think probably after Pistol.
What were your first feelings on reading Orwell? Can you remember?
Oh yes, as I mentioned before, how could he know? How could he know about all these little things? You know, that was the main feeling. Psychologically exact, 1984, because it's somebody living in this fear, and the way he hides his diary, for example, putting something inside and then just checking whether somebody had been here to probably move it, and that's how he would find out whether somebody had been reading his private diary. So all these little things about children denouncing their parents, just the way children behaved, and the television, 5 minutes of hatred, you know, all this sort of thing. You were just thinking, God, how could he know?
Has The Homage to Catalonia been published?
That's an interesting question. I think probably yes now. I think now they've been translating everything. But that needs checking. I think they probably
yesterday
have.
I saw a Russian translation
Of
on the internet, well preparing for the days.
Yeah, right, yes.
Does that include the journalism and letters as well?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. For example, there is another article called The Prevention of Literature, where written in 1946, where Orwell also talks a lot about the danger of the Russian myth and how it distorts the minds of the intellectuals. And I don't think this one is translated, for example.
How is Orwell seen in Russia today?
You know, it's very difficult to say, because today it's such a... well, first of all, there's much more diversity in the first place, and that's a good thing, obviously. Secondly, there's much more chaos. Thirdly, I know that when this book was published first, they put a very low price on it, sort of like what a student could buy. It was, I think, at the end of the 90s. It was probably 1999, I can look it up, but the second edition was in 2000. And at that point, lots of people were saying, who would buy it today? There's no Soviet Union anymore. Who would buy it today? And contrary to all expectations, people bought it. You know, it wasn't just the price, I don't think. Because, and then they published the second edition, published more copies, and they also were sold. So I think people do read it. Yes.
I think, Gavin, you will know better what the sales are like in this country. I mean, do Animal Farm and 1984 have a steady year-by-year sale?
I think so, and interestingly, Penguin, who have the paperback rights to the Orwell works, have published, I think, 5 series now of their great ideas, which are these very small books which have very short extracts from a variety of works. And in 4 of the 5 collections, there has been an Orwell pamphlet,
and
it's been
has sold best.
Yeah,
has sold best of all. By quite a distance. It stands out sort of 3. It's went in the shop I work in 3 or 4 times more than any of the others in the series.
And is it still a set text? It was in my generation of school child. It was the set text, as was Brave New World.
Less so than it used to be. I think I never studied Orwell at school.
Animal Farm, I think, is regularly, 1984 less so. I think it's sometimes an A-level text.
Right.
Yes.
Shortly after I got to Russia in the Gorbachev time, a Russian friend said to me, if you want to know what's going on here, read Animal Farm. Now, the question I'd like to pose to both of you is how many animal farms do you think the Russian people have gone through so far?
You, the Russian.
Well, I don't know. It's the awful thing that there are always hopes, and then these hopes are dashed. I mean, it depends on to what extent there is a real revolution. You see, I even hesitated to call perestroika a failed revolution because it went further than Khrushchev's thought, but it didn't go far enough, probably. You know, some people would tell you it had gone too far, and that's why, or too far and too fast. And that's why we are reaping the consequences. I personally don't think enough was done. For example, the same rule of law. Nobody thought about it at the time, and they thought that, you know, it will all function by itself. And this hasn't happened. So it very often comes in Russian history that there is hope and crushing of this hope. How many I can't say.